In this video, you will learn all the best team building strategies for AFK Journey, and I will also showcase how you can build a team with every faction. Before we begin, just a quick disclaimer, this is a sponsored video series, so if you haven't done already, make sure to download AFK Journey to help support my channel. Now, let's talk about the core strategy of this game. Essentially, teams can be built for three main purposes. You either want to clear the story mode, or you want to win fights in PvP, or you're interested in reaching the highest score in Dream Realm. There are also game modes like Legend Trial, where you can only use units from a single faction on a rotating schedule, and then there's Arcane Labyrinth mode, but in this video, I am gonna focus on just the three modes I've mentioned already. Okay, so the first crucial thing you need to know about would be the faction bonuses. And if you're someone who's familiar with AFK Arena, the concept here is very similar. Basically, if you deploy 3, 4, or 5 characters from the same faction, you'll obtain a bonus which is going to be extra attack and HP for the whole team. And if you use Hypogean or Celestial faction units, they can count as any faction, and on top of that, they also provide small attack and HP bonuses. But the big question is, should you focus on this faction bonus? Well, since the game just recently launched, it's pretty unrealistic to utilize 5 characters from the same faction to obtain the highest bonus because the synergy from a single faction isn't just there yet, and instead, most players that I've been observing usually tend to go for minimum 3 faction bonus. So for example, one of the teams I will talk about later in the video is this Graveborn setup I have, which contains 3 Graveborn units, while the other 2 units can be basically from any faction, who can help with improving the team's performance. So yeah, basically just don't worry too much about obtaining the highest faction bonus, just try and see if you can fit in 3 characters from the same faction to activate the first bonus, because it's pretty powerful already and will help you with clearing content. Now, the other big thing I need to mention would be what roles should you include in your team. Well, there isn't really a catch-all solution, but generally, it's been proven that by running a team that consists of 1 tank, 2 damage dealers, 1 healer, and 1 flexible unit is going to do pretty well, at least for story missions. And sometimes, units will be able to perform several roles, like healing, dealing damage, and debuffing, such as this Hypogean character Rainier, I think he's called like that. And when it comes to that flexible unit I mentioned a moment ago, it could literally be anyone. You could run a team with 2 tanks or 2 healers, or even a 3rd damage dealer. It depends on what content you're doing, or sometimes, you know, you're just losing to some random fight like an AFK stage, and you just switch things up and double down on healers, and suddenly it works. Honestly, don't be afraid to experiment with team comps early in the game, since all the units share the level of the 5 team spots, so you could always try to work out a fight you're losing like a puzzle, and just see if mixing up the team comp can help with that. But yeah, let's talk about some beginner teams you can use to progress the story and AFK stages, because there's quite a few of them. So, the first team you might want to check out would be Graveborn Core. If you didn't know, everyone who summons for the first time in this game will obtain Cessia as their first 5-star, and she's one of the best units to play the game with, just because of how beginner-friendly she is. In fact, she's going to be like a chameleon, and will work really nice in almost all triple faction teams, not just Graveborn, since what she can do is summon this big dude to act as a tank, and she can also deal great AoE damage and provide crowd control. But if you do use her in a Graveborn comp, who else should be included? Well, when it comes to a tank, the best one is going to be Thorin. In fact, he is probably one of the best tanks in the game in general, because he can reflect the damage back when using his ultimate, he can drain HP of his enemies, and on top of that, he can also revive himself when he gets defeated. Also, if you unlock his EX weapon, which is when you ascend a character to a Mythic Plus tier, he will now be able to form a pact with an ally behind him to absorb some of the incoming damage, and that teammate will also provide healing for Thorin when they deal damage. Now, I don't want to delve too deep into EX weapons because we're just starting out with the game, and they will come much later after you obtain more copies of your favorite character, but in a nutshell, I will sometimes mention EX weapon if it's relevant to highlight the power of the hero, but for the most part, assume I'm just talking about units as if you just obtained them. Okay, so back to Graveborn Core. The 3rd member can either be Viperion or Sylvina, and it really depends on who you're up against. Viperion in general works really great with Cessia and Thorin, since they can protect him while he's setting up his drain and AoE attacks, while Sylvina is amazing when you have that one annoying enemy who's hiding in the backline, and you want to take care of them as soon as possible. But yeah, that's the 3-unit archetype or core of Graveborn, while the last 2 spots, I've been using Rowan and Heaven as my healers and supports. I also sometimes replace one of them with Vala, the new featured Lightbearer unit, since just like Sylvina, she can also get into the enemy's backline to disrupt them and take out one of the squishy targets. At the end of the day, and this applies for all teams, if you utilize the suggested 3 core members of the faction, the other 2 will always depend on the situation. Now, moving over to Wilders, this is probably my most favorite faction when it comes to how visually appealing they look, but at the same time, a lot of the units are also pretty strong. So, for the 3-core team of Wilders, Laika is going to be great because she can immediately restore energy at the start of battle for everyone, which means faster ultimates, and depending on the situation, if it's useful, she can also reduce enemies' physical defense. Then there's Heaven, which will help with her healing, and depending on who you got, you can either go with Bryon or Granny Donnie. Bryon is a damage dealer, while Granny is an excellent tank, so if you're missing one of them, substitute Granny with tanks like Lucius or Thorin, while Bryon can be replaced with any damage dealer. But ideally, using Granny, Bryon, Heaven, and Laika here is pretty great, although we can also include Cecia as well. Oh, and I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing names here, hopefully it's not too cringy. Now, when it comes to Lightbearers, Vala, the new featured unit, is going to be pretty amazing to kick things off. The second spot could be Marilee or Corrin. Honestly, they both shine best in late game, while the last spot should be taken by Rowan, who is an excellent buffer and can deliver good heals. Now, you might notice there's no tank mentioned here. Well, it really depends. If you still haven't achieved 3-unit faction bonus, Lucius works well, although Thorin and Granny can be better in overall, while the last spot can be taken by literally anyone, including yet again Cecia. Finally, for Maulers, you will want to go with either Antandra or Brutus as a tank. I know Brutus specifically is categorized here as a warrior, not tank, but he can buy the team some extra time with his immortality. But if you don't like these odds, you can always go with Antandra, who is a pretty amazing and accessible A-level rarity tank. Now, the next spot should be taken by Odie, no questions asked. This suspicious looking hyena is quite insane, and I cannot tell you how many times I went on to clutch matches thanks to him saving the team with his powerful damage output. After that, Smokey and Mirky is an amazing healer who can also buff the team. However, positioning will matter here because the team needs to stay inside his range for the effects to work. And then, for the last 2 spots, going with another damage dealer like Riss or Seth can be great if you want to activate 4th faction bonus, and especially when it comes to Riss, the AoE damage is quite important, but as always, you can just go with Cecia, especially if you manage to dupe her into higher ascension level. Finally, the flexible slot could be taken by Shakir. In fact, he is kind of like a general solution to a lot of Mauler teams, so if you obtain him, he is an excellent addition to the comp. Overall, keep in mind these teams are just suggestions, and covering all aspects of these teams would be impossible to do in a single video. So if you're hungry for more info, it's always a good idea to check out other guide makers. I'm just here to help you get started. Now, the last thing I want to quickly cover would be PvP and Dream Realm. The teams that I just talked about are mostly there to be utilized in story mode and AFK stage clearing. But when it comes to PvP, I'm not gonna lie, it's going to be an ever-evolving meta, and in this video, it would be pointless to mention the teams when it's only been a few days since the game is out. For example, one of the better teams that have been established is the core of Iron, Carolina, and Arden. But for it to work super well, Iron needs his EX weapon, so we're talking about late game here. Honestly, for now, just one of the cores I showcased can be used to climb the first few ranks, while later on, as you learn more about how to counter enemy teams, you can expand on that. And when it comes to Dream Realm, it's also a pretty huge topic. I might cover it in the future, but some units that really shine here would be Marilee, since she can deal true damage with her EX weapon, or there's Kruger, who is considered to be pretty meh for all contents except Dream Realm, where he shines best as physical defense debuffer. Basically, this game is quite deep, and a lot of strategies will keep on evolving as new characters get released, which to me is pretty exciting, since, as you can already see, there's a lot of team variations you can go for even during the launch days. So, I hope you found this video useful, and hey, I would really appreciate it if you could press the like button and subscribe to my channel. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.